Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. This is Nick Wright. Chris Broussard is joining us this morning. We are down here in Miami for Super Bowl week. We came here to talk football, but in life, sometimes plans change, and unfortunately, today is one of those days. We are continuing to process the news of Kobe Bryant's death. His reach so much farther than just basketball. As a father and husband, an NBA legend, an Oscar winner, so much more. Nick, I know this was hard on you. It was hard on every sports fan. How are you processing all of it this morning now that you've had a second to let it sink in?
Yeah, I think processing is the right word, and I don't think it's sunk in. This is the first one of these for me, as far as, unlike Broussard, I had no personal relationship with Kobe Bryant. And I've never had a celebrity death that registered with me the way I know so many have with other people. I remember the outpouring when Michael Jackson passed, and I'll be totally candid, I didn't understand it. I understood people appreciated his music and appreciated his career, but I didn't understand the grief people were feeling, and now I do. I am still in a stage of disbelief, Chris. When the news came across my Twitter feed, as I think with so many people, I said, well, it can't be right. And then as the news seemingly only got sadder and sadder, and it was confirmed, and then we also know his 13-year-old daughter passed away along with 7 other people, I don't even know how to wrap my arms around it. And I am in true shock that Kobe Bryant, 1978 to 2020, that we are not going to see Kobe Bryant sitting courtside at Laker games when he's old and gray, and that we're not going to get to see this next phase of his life that he seemed to be so excitedly embracing over the last few years of his retirement.
Yeah, like everyone, I mean, I was in shock. I was actually in the air when I found out. I was flying to Chicago and then en route to here, and somebody had texted me OMG, and I shot back a question mark, and they said Kobe died. And I was like, this can't be Kobe Bryant. And I text Kobe Bryant question mark, and they said, yeah. And I began seeing other stuff because we were about to land in the news, and it was like a gut punch. And as you said, Nick, I mean, I've seen tragedies. I was a very little kid when Roberto Clemente died of a plane crash. Thurman Munson, I was older and could understand when he died with the Yankees. Magic Johnson, when he came down, got HIV.
People thought he was going to die in short order.
And Roy Halladay, even more recently, the great pitcher. But I haven't experienced anything like this in the world of sports in my lifetime. This is the most tragic for me that I've ever seen. And there are a lot of reasons to be devastated, but one was that Kobe had transitioned so smoothly to life after basketball, which surprised me because he had such tunnel vision as a player that I actually was one that thought he might have trouble transitioning because basketball was so much a part of his life and really was his life. But I haven't seen a transition this smooth.
Better.
Business venture. He's a venture capitalist. Won an Oscar, for his movie Dear Basketball. Best-selling author for the Mamba Mentality book, and a family man, a tremendous family man. That's why we didn't see him at as many Laker games, because he was spending time coaching his kids. Ironically, the last time I saw him was about a year ago at the mall in Newport Beach, where he lived, and he was with his family. And we spoke for about 10 minutes. He seemed so comfortable and so just comfortable in life after basketball. And so that's one of the reasons of many that is most devastating to me.
Well, Jenna, what Broussard talked about right there was my immediate reaction once you start to process it is there are certain guys who you really do worry about once their career's over. No matter how much money or fame or accolades they have, what will they do? And will they always be trying to reclaim their athletic fame And I would have thought Kobe was going to be tops on that list because he was such an amazing competitor. And he seemed to have just an almost animalistic need to compete, to defeat you, to have there be some scoreboard that he was on the top of. But instead, he went a totally different way. He totally threw himself into, it would appear, the things he maybe always had a passion for, but deprived himself of because he was so focused on singular greatness as a basketball player. And so he gets into films, he's always reading a different book, and he gets his sports fix through his daughters. And that's the part that, for everyone, to me, is so jarring about it, and it makes you honestly reconsider all your decisions. It makes you, like all of us, spend time away from our families for a career we're very focused on. Broussard, if I may, you're bi-coastal, right. And I spent a year and a half living in a different city than my wife and kids, and going back and forth. And it makes you just think, like, does any of it matter other than the things that actually matter? And Kobe was finally getting to do the things for him that actually matter. And to have that stripped from him, and selfishly for all of us to lose getting to see what the next 50 years of a savant, a brilliant person that was trilingual, person that could show the ability to get to the top of multiple fields, what he would have done, the things he was already trying to do for women's basketball, it is a tragedy unlike I can remember in the sports world in my lifetime.
So for me, I was at another network when the news of the Michael Jackson passing happened, and I was just starting my career when Princess Di tragically was killed. Those were the only two that I can remember that had such an incredible global reach. But we didn't live really in the time of as intense social media as we do now, where you get the immediate impact of how much Kobe Bryant has touched everyone. I mean, far from just basketball. You scroll down any of your feeds, and he has affected just about everyone. And I know you both touched on it, but my question to you is, how much bigger was Kobe Bryant than just the basketball accolades, which in and of itself are tremendously impressive?
Well, first of all, basketball-wise, on a world stage, he was as big as anyone. Because in Asia, he was arguably the biggest NBA player there. So yep. Basketball-wise, I mean, his impact is second to none. And that includes Michael Jordan and LeBron James as far as worldwide prominence and being a face of the game. But, Nick kind of touched on it. A lot of athletes, even if they go on to do some really good things after their playing career, the best part, at least to the public, of their life was going to be their sports career. I'm not sure that was going to be the case with Kobe Bryant because he's only been retired, 3 or 4 years? 3 years?
3.5 years.
And he's already done so many tremendous things. And so what he was going to do, I don't know if he would have ever delved into politics or whatever. He obviously was intelligent enough, was well respected enough to do things like that. But he was going to do some tremendous things off the court. And again, that is one of the things that makes it so tragic in my mind.
And I don't know if this makes it sadder or makes it, more palatable, probably somewhere in between. When he was in the public, right in the public eye Saturday night, the night before, because the Lakers were in Philly and LeBron passed him in the scoring list. And so what you saw from Kobe with his tweet after the game, with Bill Plaschke in the LA Times wrote about today, was Kobe was truly at peace and was no longer engaging in the petty stuff that I find myself engaging in all the time of this player versus that player. He was so confident and satisfied with what he had accomplished in basketball that he had I don't want to say removed himself from the fray, but he was wanting now just to lift others up and to move on to other phases. So you're glad he got that piece, but it is for Kobe's family, for the families of the other people on that airplane, or on that helicopter, for everyone, it is the type of thing, and this is not, I'm just gonna be totally candid. These 3 hours today, it's just gonna be, I don't know, soul searching. But it's the type of thing I'll talk with Broussard off the air about, in that Broussard is a man of deep, deep faith. To be totally candid, I am not so much. And it is the type of thing that makes you question either. And that is the impact of something like this. You either say, how is this fair? Or this is where you grab someone's hand who has that type of faith and you say, this is how you get through these types of things. And God willing, I hope his 3 other daughters and his wife have that support structure around them, because this is unbelievable.
Well, as you can imagine, the news has struck so many throughout the sports world as well. This from Shaquille O'Neal. There are no words to express the pain I'm going through now with this tragic and sad moment of losing my niece Gigi and my friends, my brother, my partner in winning championships, my dude, my homie. I love you and will miss you, will be missed. My condolences go out to the Bryant family and the families of the other passengers on board. I'm sick right now. He then added, Kobe was so much more than an athlete. He was a family man. That was what we had most in common. We love our families. Whenever we got together, I would hug his children like they were my own, and he would embrace my kids like they were his. His baby girl, Gianna, was born on the same day as my youngest daughter. I miss you already, brother. This is truly unbelievable. Everyone, please keep the Bryants in your prayers. Rest in peace. We talk about physical fitness a lot, but there's another side to the game that's just as important. I'm talking about mental fitness. Calm, the #1 app for sleep and meditation, has now teamed up with LeBron James to help you train your mind. LeBron and Calm know that your mind is like any other muscle in your body, and Calm can help you train your brain so you sleep better, so you have less stress, so you perform at your best. For LeBron James, sleep is an important part of his mental fitness routine. He says, getting good sleep and finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things I can do for my body and mind. And if you head to calm.com/sports40, you'll get 40% off a Calm Premium membership. With Calm, you have access to the nature scenes LeBron loves and so much more, like sleep stories and meditations. For a limited time, our listeners can join LeBron in using Calm with a 40% discount to an annual membership at calm.com/sports40. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. Get started at calm.com/sports40. That's calm.com/sports40. We are here in Miami covering Super Bowl 54, but we do continue to celebrate the life of Kobe Bryant, which has sidetracked us just a little bit today. This was the scene yesterday afternoon in Los Angeles. Within hours of the news of Kobe's tragic death, fans began to gather outside the Staples Center. Countless current and former NBA players feeling just as lost as the fans. Here's Dwayne Wade.
Today is one of the saddest days in my lifetime. It seems like a bad dream that you just want to wake up from. It's a nightmare. I know we all feel the same way about such a great leader, just a great champion. He's a great person. If you got a chance to know Kobe, you got a chance to really know Kobe, there ain't nobody better, man. Emotions are all over the place. These are the moments when you ask why. My heart, thoughts goes out to Kobe's family, his daughter Gigi, This is a sad day. There's no way around it. My family and I have been sharing Kobe stories. We got so many moments that he's given us. We're so thankful for those moments. I'm thankful for those moments, man. This was one of my favorite players. And I got a chance to have a relationship, a friendship. But I would miss him. I would miss the friendship. I said it many times. When Kobe retired from the game of basketball, it left a hole in my wanting to play. Because when I came in the league, I chased him. That's who I chased. I wanted to be respected by him. And once I reached that level, I knew I did something. So, Kobe, thank you, man. Thank you for all the memories. We got a lot of good ones. And these tears that we're crying, we're going to miss you. And it's not going to go. It's not leaving today. A week from now, a month from now, a year from now, we will forever, forever miss you, man. You're our legend. You're our icon. You're our father. You're a husband. You're a son. You're a brother. You're a friend. Thank you for being my friend. I love you, brother.
Oh, the raw emotion from everybody that Kobe has touched along the way. If we didn't already know, yesterday showed us just how much Kobe meant to an entire generation of former and current players. Nick, what does all of this reaction tell you about Kobe's legacy, not just to the Lakers, but just to the world?
Yeah, this is something Broussard talks about a lot, is if you talk to current players, they, almost to a man, who's the guy you looked up to? Kobe. Who's the guys from his era? Who's the toughest to guard? Kobe. And you can speak on this better than I can, but like we all know he's one of the 8 greatest players in NBA history. He's one of the 3 greatest guards ever. He is arguably the icon of the greatest franchise in NBA history, and some people would say sports history. Certainly the last 50 years, nobody's had more success in sports than the Los Angeles Lakers. I could, and at some point today, I will go down the list of things he did from year 4 to year 17 to culminating in the 60-point final game of his career, which is just, you wouldn't believe it. If it was in a sports movie, you wouldn't believe it. You'd say rewrite the ending. It's not, it's too unbelievable. But what do people say, Broussard, when they're in an office and they're shooting a piece of paper into a trash can? Kobe.
Yep.
And he truly transcended in a way that certain athletes, even if you think they're higher on the all-time athlete list, that they never could dream of transcending.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned current players and current players and former players. A lot of times we have the GOAT conversation. Yep. And without fail, whenever I'm talking to players of either they're playing today or they were playing in the past, they say, Kobe's got to be in that discussion. Why aren't more people talking about Kobe? I mean, that's how great he was. You mentioned, the 60 points in his last game, which was so Kobe Bryant, to go out with a 60-point game. The 81 points. For our generation, that was like Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. And it may be in Wilt Chamberlain's day, and you look back at that game, and it became a concerted effort by his team to get him the basketball so he could score the 100 points. Kobe's 81 came in the competitive game. They were down 14 points, I believe, in the first half. Yep. And he had to score to get them to win the game. He scored 55 in the second half. So as a basketball player, his legacy is as big as anyone's, as great as anyone's. But the thing about Kobe is that so many athletes defy the stereotype of what we think a jock is. So many of them. and particularly, even an African-American job. Kobe defied those stereotypes more than anyone. He spoke 5 languages. He wasn't from the hood. A lot of people think his mentality, the killer instinct, that you gotta be from a really rough and tough upbringing to have that type of mentality. Kobe's dad played professional basketball. Kobe grew up in Italy to some degree, and yet he had as tough and as hard-nosed of a mentality as anybody, as any athlete we've ever seen. And I think his legacy, as great as it is physically on the court, it is as much mental, because the reason so many athletes say Kobe is in that GOAT conversation is because of that killer instinct. And his ability to focus on whatever the task is was just incredible. And we saw it in his post-career too. Now I'm done with basketball. I'm focused on my media company. I'm focused on, my books and my movies and all the things he was doing. So mentally, he's one of the strongest athletes that we have ever seen.
After this happened yesterday, I went back to the hotel room and I just put on the TV. It didn't matter what channel you flipped on, this is what they were talking about. And it seemed like, Nick, player after player, coach after coach, talked about just that, his work ethic. A guy who's so gifted and so talented would still be the first one at the gym. There were players talking about how they would come to play the Lakers, and he'd be out there before the game practicing, building up a sweat, then go back and change and come out and play the game. And you wonder how someone who was so talented at their craft would want to spend yet so much more time at their craft, which is what you're talking about, how he became so successful after basketball.
Well, that's the thing. Listen, by regular human being standards, Kobe Bryant was a freak show athlete. By NBA standards, he was not. He was a great leaper, very fast, but he wasn't overly tall. He was not physically dominant. And the reason you cannot be physically dominant, and you're on the list that I was talking about, is just like Michael Jordan, who had almost the exact same body specs, just said, nah, man, I am scared of no one. I am scared of no situation, and I will work harder than you. What you think is hard work, I think it's the first workout of the day. And that is how you get to this level of greatness. That is how in year 17, you are playing your 78th out of 80 possible games in a season. You're averaging 27 points per game, trying to drag a team that was well past its era into the postseason, and have your Achilles pop on you and still get up and shoot those free throws.
Right.
There are so many moments in Kobe's career that if he were a fictitious character, you would think, well, that's the penultimate scene of the movie. But he had like 5 of them. Right. You mentioned the 81-point game. He scored 62 a few weeks earlier in 3 quarters, was asked why you didn't stay in to try to go for 80. And he said, I'll get it another time. And he did. He hit those free throws with the popped Achilles. For his 5th championship, which was such an important moment for him, because this was before he was to a different phase in his life, and Shaq had 4, he had 4, and he wanted that 5th. They're down 3-2 in the finals. They win game 6. Game 7, he just doesn't have his shot. So what does he do? He gets 15 rebounds and plays great defense. And then my final night, my final day, like we talk about Babe Ruth calling his shot, but in a fashion similar to Derek Jeter hitting a home run for his 3,000th hit, or the walk-off. He said, my final game, 60? In a season, he hadn't scored 40 yet. It was year 20. Those things.
And they won, of course.
And of course.
As an aside.
Those things don't happen in real life. And then, by the way, 2 years after I graduate, 2 years after I retire, I'll win an Oscar.
Right.
And that's why his level of iconicism, if that's the word, is going to be hard to be matched by any current NBA player, no matter the levels on the court they achieve, because he did it in a way and with a flair that we haven't seen since or really prior. TurboTax is here to help this tax season by making tax filing easier for you. They've made it their mission to give you all the tools and advice you need to get your taxes done with confidence, like making uploading your W-2 as easy as taking a picture. Just use your phone or tablet to simply snap a picture of your W-2, then watch your information appear in the right place in your tax return. You can be sure you're filing your taxes correctly while at the same time making sure you're getting the best possible refund. TurboTax. All people are tax people.
We are back here live from Miami. We're here for Super Bowl 54. Today, however, we are remembering the life of Kobe Bryant, who passed away at the age of 41 yesterday. As you can imagine, there was plenty of reaction around the league. Here was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
It's very difficult for me to put in words how I feel about the loss of Kobe Bryant. As a young boy, I met him when he was 11 or 12 years old. I was friends with his dad, Joe. We were former adversaries. Joe played for the 76ers, but he was a good friend and someone that I shared a friendship. And it's hard for me to understand now how this is affecting Joe and his wife. So to Kobe's family, I want to send my most sincere and heartfelt regrets and prayers, and my thoughts are with you guys. Kobe was an incredible family man. He loved his wife and daughters. He was an incredible athlete and a leader in a lot of ways. He inspired a whole generation of young athletes. He was one of the first ones to leave high school and come into the NBA and do so well, dominating the game and becoming one of the best scorers that the Los Angeles Lakers has ever seen. I had the privilege of being there when he scored his 81-point game, and it was something that I will always remember as one of the highlights of the things that I have learned and observed in sports. Kobe, my thoughts are with you. Absolutely. Rest in peace, young man. This loss it's just hard to comprehend. Go with God.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the passing of Kobe Bryant. We are now joined by Doug Gottlieb. Gottlieb, when you heard the news, you jumped on a red eye from LA. You made sure you were here. What was your reaction when you heard about all of this?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm crestfallen. I've got to know Kobe after his career. We live in the same area. Our daughters went to school together for a couple years, and one of the other families, the Altabellis, John's a legendary junior college baseball coach.
One of the families that was tragically killed.
Yes, and his wife Carrie, and they leave 2 kids. Christina Mauser is a PE teacher at their school. She leaves 3 kids. I mean, it's a terrible local tragedy. And my daughter's friend Alyssa was obviously on that plane. And so first you're dealing with, I have a 13-year-old daughter. It's enough problems in middle school. Now all of a sudden you're dealing with death. And then it's Kobe. And I think you said it before, Chris, the timing of what happened the night before. And LeBron was even talking about it. LeBron talked for a couple minutes, and it's really interesting. He kind of let us in that, back when Kobe was playing in the All-Star game, his hometown of Philadelphia, he and LeBron got together with Maverick Carter.
They drove to go see him.
Yeah, and he was getting ready to play Oak Hill the next day, and Kobe gave him his shoes, and LeBron wore them even though they're size too small. Right? So to go from LeBron passing him in Philadelphia and becoming 3rd all time, and Kobe has handled this so well, as well as you possibly can. And then it pops up on your phone, your daughter's crying, and you don't know what's going on, and then you just understand the magnitude. And I think the fact that we had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar right there, NBA stars are not like NFL stars, right? NBA stars seem to live forever. And Jordan's still alive.
They gave out the first MVP in 1956. As of yesterday morning, only Wilt Chamberlain and Moses Malone were the MVPs that were not still with us. And the fact that it's now 3 and Kobe's one of them, it speaks to that point. We were talking about this before the show. Bill Russell has seemed like the oldest man in the room for my entire life, and you still see him every NBA Finals. You're absolutely. Moses was sudden. Right. Wilt was older, but we thought we were going to have 50 more years of Kobe Bryant in our lives.
And Chris and I, we've talked about this even going back to when he was playing. A lot of people were worried about Kobe. Like,
right.
Because Kobe cannot be a GM, he cannot be a coach, right? Like his demands on people in terms of their work ethic is beyond what normal people are really even capable of. So we're like, what else? And he did find this. I mean, he was really into coaching the Mamba girls. Like he's sending me videos of Triangle and some of the drills they're doing, and they're practicing 5 days a week. And then he had his empire, but. So my initial reaction, I was just crestfallen for all these Newport families, and then you start to understand the magnitude of NBA superstars don't die, and then the story itself, the whole thing is you cannot write a script like this. From the airball, his freshman year in the playoffs, rookie year in the playoffs, to becoming seen as the greatest closer, the injuries, Colorado. Becoming this family man, Mamba out, and now having an Academy Award, it's the most remarkable tale I can think of for an NBA player, and unlike so many of his contemporaries, gone way too soon.
Yeah, Bill Plaschke, the longtime columnist for the LA Times, and his career at the LA Times basically mirrored Kobe's career with the Lakers.
Plaschke started 2 months before Kobe's first game.
And he wrote yesterday, in his column, one of the lines was, Kobe does not die. Like, this can't be true. Kobe doesn't die. And we know he's a basketball immortal, but that was part of my thinking when I heard the news, like, wait a minute, this can't be true. Like, Kobe Bryant is one of those handful of players that you just expected to always be there, to always be in the fabric of sports and basketball. And I'm going to be honest, I think one of the things I'm going to try to start applying more to my life is something that I look at Kobe as having, and that is, and I think anyone in any field of endeavor should learn this from Kobe. He did nothing just for the heck of it. He did nothing just to get through it. Oh, I've got to do this. When he played basketball, it was, I'm playing to be the best ever, or at least the best I can be. I remember seeing him, when one of his new models of his sneaker would come out. He's like, you got my new shoe? You got my new shoe yet? Or when the Muse came out in his Showtime documentary, we used to email every so often, and like he moved around a bit as a kid, I moved around a bit as a kid. Sometimes we were both one of the few African Americans in our areas, so we kind of talked a little bit about that over email, and he was like, you're gonna love the Muse. That's because of that. He took so much pride in everything he did, whether it was his shoes, whether it was his game, whether it was the stuff he did after, off the court, the Showtime documentary, and so on and so forth. I'm really going to try to apply that to my life. Don't be mediocre in anything. Always try to be the best.
I think it's an amazing lesson that a lot of people say, and very few people actually do. Kobe, we had proof positive evidence he was actually doing it by what he did post-career. But your point about what Plaschke wrote, Kobe doesn't die, I think this is one of the reasons it's resonating so much, because he's a global icon. You could argue he's the most popular player globally the NBA's ever had. When we look at the NBA today, and we talked about it Friday, 4 of the starting All-Stars, Cameroon, Greece, Nigeria via Greece, and Slovenia, the way the NBA just became truly a global game is in large part because those kids grew up idolizing Kobe. But so there's that part of it. The other part of it is this. It makes us all feel like could be us. If Kobe Bryant can die in a helicopter crash along with his daughter and those 7 other people that Doug, had a relationship with and whose lives are just as valuable as Kobe's, then there's any of us. And it makes, I think we all know we're going to die, but none of us ever actually believe it. Or I think maybe that's just me. It's true, but it's hard to actually believe. And then when you see Kobe Bryant died, it makes all of us question our own mortality.
The popularity is fascinating because, Chris, you probably attest to this. Most guys didn't like him when he played in his prime. He didn't have a lot of friends in the NBA. Late in his NBA career, he tried to start befriending guys, and guys were like, what is the deal with Kobe, right? Or now he's friendly Kobe or whatever. But if you pull the current NBA players, he's their Jordan.
Yes.
He's their Jordan, right? And Iverson's probably a close second, and maybe part of it is they didn't live with it, whatever. He's also, he's going to go down as the last of the mid-range guys, the last of the ISO guys. He's a very unique figure. Remember, he wanted out of LA. He was going to be traded. And then the Bulls couldn't pull it off, and he ends up reinvesting. They get Phil Jackson out of retirement after ripping him in a book.
They get power.
The whole thing is nuts. And yet he's gone, so he can't. We're left to tell all these stories.
But we could do 3 hours of a show based solely on what Kobe Bryant did on the court. And how few people do we know who could reach the pinnacle of their craft, and yet we could spend hours and hours talking about what they did outside of their craft. And I think that's what makes this such a unique individual and obviously such a tragic passing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think his mental legacy, the legacy he leaves for people mentally, is as big as the legacy he's left physically. And you mentioned it, Doug, like a lot of players may not have liked him when he played. Kobe grew up so much differently than your average NBA player. Again, in Italy, he grew up there, and then he was in the suburbs in Philadelphia. And so I saw him, at least in my relationship with him, earlier in his career. I don't know if he was as comfortable in his skin, at least in that setting of the NBA, because he grew up so differently.
He wanted to be Jordan.
Right.
He used to almost, he did the best Jordan imitation of anybody.
He was against Phoenix when he hit the game winner. He did the thing, and then it only seemed to me later, really post the championships without Shaq, that he decided, instead of trying to be my best version of Michael Jordan, I'm going to be my best version of Kobe Bryant. And that then turned into also off the court.
Right.
It turned into winning an Academy Award and doing these things.
It was a succession of things. Remember, before he tore his Achilles tendon, that was a terrible basketball team that he single-handedly willed into the playoffs. Yep. Right? That was his. And then the year off, that he was at that school with his daughter serving lunches, and I thought that really, and it gave him time to think about what he wanted to do next. And that's when he kind of plotted this whole strategy about being a global financial icon. And then he comes back, and he wasn't very good, but the 60 in the last night and the speech Mamba out is, it's Jeterian. It's like Derek Jeter. Those are the two guys. That's what we love.
All right, well, yesterday's news sent shockwaves far beyond the world of basketball. Tom Brady actually chimed in saying, "We miss you already, Kobe." While Barack Obama said Kobe was a legend on the court and just getting started in what would have been just as meaningful a second act. To lose Gianna is even more heartbreaking to us as parents. Michelle and I send love and prayers to Vanessa and the entire Bryant family on an unthinkable day. A life cut way too short. First things first, live from Miami, FS1 here for Super Bowl 54 between the 49ers and the Chiefs. But today we remember Kobe Bryant, who died tragically alongside his 13-year-old daughter and 7 others in a helicopter crash yesterday. And this was the scene yesterday when LeBron James got off the plane, seemingly brought to tears by the news of Kobe's tragic death. Just the night before, LeBron passed Kobe on the all-time scoring list, a milestone that truly meant the world to him. Here's LeBron from Saturday after passing Kobe on that scoring list.
When I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was growing up through the ranks when Kobe came into the league. He was, it wasn't a dream of mine to come straight, from high school at that point in time to the NBA. But I was like, wow, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid being able to make that leap, that's pretty damn cool. And as I started playing more ball and I was winning in high school, the things that he was doing on the floor, I admired and wanted to be a part of. I went to ABCD camp, and he came and talked to all the kids that was there, and I happened to be one of the kids that was there, and I was just listening. I was just trying to soak everything up I could. And I remember one thing that he said. He was like, if you want to try to be, great at it, or want to be one of the greats, you got to put the work in. There's no substitution to work. And I was a 15-year-old kid at that camp. You can actually find the footage of him him at that camp. And in 2001, I believe I was playing in New Jersey, and the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken, and y'all could correct me, it was in Philly, right? Yeah, that Saturday, me and Maverick drove to the Intercontinental downtown Philadelphia, and he gave me a pair of his shoes, which I ended up wearing that following night. It was the red, white, and blue Kobe's. I was a 15, and he was a 14, and I wore them anyways. And I sat and just talked to him for a little bit. He gave me the shoes. I rocked them in the game. And it was the same night that we played Oak Hill against Melo. And then I saw what he was able to do the very next night, winning MVP here in Philly. That following night. As I got drafted, I still just admired him, seeing what he was able to accomplish, winning championships, having, being early in his career where, he learned from the misses that he had against the series against Utah, and he just used that as motivation and got better and better and better to him winning multiple championships, and continued to admire him throughout my high school rank. And then as competitors, just seeing the work ethic that he put into the game. He had zero flaws offensively, zero. You backed off of him, he could shoot the three. You body him up a little bit, he can go around you. He can shoot the mid-range, he can post, he can make free throws. He had zero flaws offensively. And, that's something that I admired as well, just being at a point where the defense will always be at bay, where they couldn't guard you at all offensively, where you just felt like you was just immortal offensively because of your skill set and your work ethic. We take it down to 2008 where we become the Redeem team, and it was a dream come true for me to be able to line up alongside of him. Just admiring him for so many years, and seeing him from afar, and then being able to be in practices with him, and me watching and learning. So on. I mean, it's just too much. It's just too much. The story is just too much. It doesn't make sense. And just to make a long story short, now I'm here in the Lakers uniform in Philadelphia, where he's from, where one of the first time I ever met him, gave me his shoes, he won All-Star Week. It's surreal. It doesn't make no sense, but the universe just puts things in your life, and when you live in the right way, or you just giving everything to whatever you're doing, things happen organically, and it's not supposed to make sense, but it just happens. And I'm happy to be in any conversation with Kobe Bryant, one of the all-time greatest basketball players to ever play, one of the all-time greatest Lakers. The man got 2 jerseys hanging up in Staples Center. It's just crazy.
Such great insight into how much of an impact Kobe had on a whole generation of players. Again, we should mention this was 12 hours before Kobe died.
Crash.
Yes, he had so much to say about just passing him on the scoring list. Nick, let's talk about the impact that Kobe did have on a whole generation of other players.
I want to zero in on one moment, because I know both of these guys played college basketball. Doug played a little bit of pro basketball, and Doug, they both know Kobe far better than I ever did. But one very specific aspect, and LeBron mentioned it there, the Redeem team, 2008. So let me take you back to 2008, where we are at that point in time. Kobe, it's the summer of 08, and LeBron is becoming LeBron. He's just taken his team to the NBA Finals. D-Wade's already won a championship more recently than Kobe had. Carmelo was at the peak of his powers, and the U.S. had just been mortified on the international stage in 04. And they are cruising through the Olympics, and then they come up against a Spain team that's been together for a long time, that has pros on it, that really felt like we were the better team. And in that moment, in that fourth quarter of those Olympics, LeBron, Wade, Melo, Dwight, Chris Paul, all those guys looked around and said, Kobe's got this.
That's right.
Kobe's got this. He scored 13 in the fourth quarter of that game. He fouled out Rudy Fernandez, who was the other team's. And I know it seems very specific, but you still hear those guys reference that time around Kobe, and learning from him as far as what it takes to be a champion, what it takes in those moments. And those are his contemporaries, much less the young, the Lukas and the Giannis's and the guys who came after who didn't get to go. Giannis played him a little bit, but didn't really get to go up against him. All those guys.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I think that's part of what LeBron has run into is whether you want to call it the Mamba mentality or how basketball has always been. Right? Basketball has always been the best player is taking the last shot no matter what. Right? That's just the way it is. It always felt that way, right? Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, they never deferred. And Kobe Bryant never deferred. Right? Even though probably his most famous play at the end of a game is an alley-oop to Shaq.
Right.
The thought is, our perception, whether it's reality or not, is that he was a closer's closer. He was an unabashed alpha. And that's one of the things that LeBron will probably never live up to because that's not how LeBron is wired, right? LeBron is more wired, has been more wired, regardless of whether the stats that Nick can bring out tell you otherwise. He's more wired to take the right shot than make sure he's the guy who takes the shot, right? And that was the difference in Kobe. And I think that legend only grows with the Mamba mentality and how so many of these younger players, the Jason Tatums, the Kyrie Irvings, come to him to study his game and to work with him in offseason.
From LeBron, who we just saw, his age group down. If they look at Kobe Bryant, Kobe had everything that young players would want to aspire to and what they would be impressed by. He doesn't get this type of publicity a lot. He's one of the greatest game dunkers we've ever seen.
Yeah.
There's one where he goes in transition against another defender behind the back and then does a 360. I think it may have been against Denver. Yeah. I was at Madison Square Garden. We remember Dr. J's iconic layup where he went from one side of the paint into the other with the layup. I was at Madison Square Garden when Kobe did that against the Knicks, but dunked it, all right? So that impresses the young people. And then to your point, the closer's mentality. We all remember as a young guy, the air balls against Utah. Sure. But when he really got it done and I think solidified his reputation as a closer was the 2000 finals against Indiana. His fourth year in the league, all right? Shaq was the man on the team. Game 4, they're up 2-1. Kobe was playing on a bad ankle. He had missed game 3 with an ankle injury. Shaq fouls out with 3 minutes left. And Kobe hits 3 buckets, takes over as a 21-year-old. That solidified him. No matter how many shots he may have made or missed going forward in the clutch, that solidified his place as a closer. And to that younger generation, that's what they remember about Kobe Bryant.
And you glossed over something. And you said, we all remember the air balls against Utah. I think there's an enormous percentage of our audience who has no idea that ever happened. Nope. That in Kobe's first few years or in the playoffs, he, even as a literal teenager, was like, nope, I got it, guys. And he did. He missed them. I only bring that up today to say this. For a lot of guys, that would ruin them as far as in those situations.
Nick Anderson
missed 3 throws,
was never the same.
And so Kobe as a team took shots that, by the way, I don't believe to this day were drawn up for him. He was just like, nope, coach, I got it.
Right.
Didn't just miss, airballed, and still always believed, no. This is my shot to take. And you bring up his first championship in year 4, is 21 years old. That same playoff run, he has one of the most iconic plays in NBA history, the oop to Shaq, Game 7 against the Blazers. And people, I guess, rightfully look at those 3 years, because Shaq won the finals MVPs, as Shaq's titles. But you mentioned his first title, 2-1, the swing game of the series. Shaq fouls out, Kobe carries them. The second title, year 2, he's 22 years old. He averaged 29 a game in that playoff run and scored 48 in a closeout game of a playoff series. And then obviously their third title, what he did in the final 3 games against Sacramento, it was scoring 30 in each game. So yeah, he had an unbelievable all-time teammate with Shaq, but they don't win those titles without Kobe Bryant right there alongside him.
No question, but if you asked him, and so this is about a year and a half ago, he texted me, we've been trying to get together, hey, let's have some drinks at a place called Javier's, which is down in Crystal Cove in near where he lives. And we talked about a lot of topics. Just really amazing, eye-opening, like his desire to talk about anything. But, you know, like, look, here's a guy who believed he made all those shots. He didn't, right? He didn't. Matter of fact, he actually made a low percentage of them in comparison to others.
Right.
But it's the mentality. We had a conversation, I swear to God. He said, you know, Mike knows he can't beat me. I was like, get out of here, dude. Come on, it's Michael Jordan. It's like, you used to try and talk. You know, we'd had a couple of drinks, so I was like, you try to talk like Michael Jordan. He's like, that's because he knows full-scale psychological warfare. Like what Kobe would do, like I was like, well, how are you going to take Mike? He's like, well, his dad loved Larry Moore. I was like, no, you would not say that. You said, yes. It's full-scale psychological warfare. Like he was a brilliant human being.
So smart.
No question.
Like you're sitting having a conversation, somebody comes up and speaking Spanish and he's instantly bilingual.
Luka said 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
whenever it was, that Luka's inbounding the ball. Luka's 19 years old, or just turned 20. Inbounding the ball, and here's someone behind him speaking Slovenian.
Yes.
And
He spoke
turns
5
around.
languages,
Yes.
And it's Kobe.
Yes.
And speaking Slovenian. Like,
No, listen, like, you know, I think one of his greatest contributions to basketball is he eliminated the high top myth, right? High tops don't actually protect your ankles. So I asked him about it. He goes, man, that's a myth just going back, you know, to the 70s that Converse created because they said they could protect your ankles more. Like, he was literally brilliant, and when left to his devices, it wasn't drugs and alcohol, and it became about business and about knowing all these things, or about a tactician. Like, look, you pointed out, he did have great game dunks. He was not a freak. He did not have the first step of Jordan. He just didn't,
right.
okay? But he understood angles and pivoting. And
Footwork.
And footwork. And if you went to his daughter's practices, when you watched, there was an incredible amount of detail put into footwork, which everybody kind of glosses over. So he was a savant on a bunch of different levels, and I think that work ethic is one of the great things that he's left for a younger generation.
All right, again, the outpouring of emotion, the reaction from fans and former players. Among the many statements yesterday, this from Bill Russell. Janine and I are absolutely shocked to hear the loss of one of my favorite people and one of the best basketball minds in the history of the game. Our hearts and prayers to Vanessa and his girls. Kobe Bryant, you were my biggest fan, but I was yours. Rest in peace, Mamba. We are back here on First Things First, live in Miami for Super Bowl 54, but plans change, and today we are remembering the life of Kobe Bryant. Kobe's love of basketball transcended his sport, as evidenced by Brazilian soccer star Neymar, who flashed the number 24 after scoring a goal last night. Just one of the many international stars clearly touched by Kobe Bryant. And we are now joined by Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Mannix. Chris, thanks so much for being with us. What was your reaction as you were watching and hearing everything unfold yesterday?
I mean, just incredulous like anything else. And you start to remember some of the experiences you had covering Kobe Bryant, the experience people told you about. I mean, the very first memory that came to mind, 2018, right? The Celtics are playing the Cavaliers in the conference finals, and in between games 2 and 3, Kobe comes out with a detail on Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
And if you remember that, there was like a 3-day gap between games 2 and 3 of that finals. And Tatum said that he watched that video like 100 times, like just kept watching it over and over again. And as the series went on, Celtics coaches would tell me that it seemed like Tatum was incorporating Kobe's notes in real time. Right. And they would grumble about it. They would just say, like, could you do this in the offseason? Don't try to change your game in the middle of the conference finals. So, Nick, LeBron's last Eastern Conference championship, some of it has to do with Kobe. Right?
Well, it's so funny you say that, because and we can talk about this more later. One of the legends of Kobe, and one of the way he'll be remembered, is his rivalries that he seemed to put aside well before his fans or the opposing fans did. The Kobe versus Shaq, Kobe versus Michael, Kobe versus LeBron. And obviously when you say the LeBron, like I have a long history of when you stack those two guys up and compare them statistically being on one side of the ledger. But what no one can deny, no matter where they are, is, and Chris talks about this all the time, is the actual players looked at Kobe in a different light. I don't know if it's because LeBron seemed like someone who you couldn't emulate because so much of it was physicality, because Kobe was so graceful, for whatever it was. But for a lot of those players, and I say this with glowing respect for Kobe Bryant, it was to their detriment, because you can't, if you try to paint like Picasso, you're just gonna have a bunch of splotches on the wall. And Kobe was the greatest bad shot maker ever.
Yep.
But if you were not Kobe, you're just taking bad shots. And so, like, you joke, like, we saw it in real time. I don't think it's joking that Tatum all of a sudden, within a series, was like, Kobe said, do this. And yeah, Kobe could do it, but that's why he's one of the 8 greatest players ever. Kyrie, who left the stadium yesterday and couldn't play and loves and idolizes Kobe. It's guys trying to mimic something that seems like, well, if he could do it, why can't I? He's bigger than Kyrie, but he's not that much taller. He's not that much stronger. He can't jump that much higher. What? Because you're not Kobe. That's why you can't do it. And the game, Kobe was able to take all the things Michael did, figure out what he could do and couldn't do, and build his game from there. But that's a one of one historically. Like, I can't say it'll never happen again, but if it does, it'll be another guy who turns into one of the 10 greatest players ever.
That's what happens. When Michael Jordan, when he played, everybody focused on, that's when isolation basketball became in vogue after or during Jordan and after him, because guys were trying to emulate what Michael Jordan could do, and they couldn't do it. And it could hurt their games or hurt the game of basketball. Kobe's legacy or impact on the world of sports is unquestionably the killer instinct. And not that he was the first, but maybe because Michael Jordan and guys like that, but maybe because technology had increased so much and he had become this icon in Asia and worldwide that others before him couldn't. Maybe that's why, but whether you call it killer instinct, Mamba mentality, I mean, remember him, you mentioned Utah, the air balls. But remember him in the All-Star game as a 19-year-old waving off Karl Malone. Karl Malone went to set a screen for him. He waves him off, I don't need it. I mean, that type of mentality, Kobe Bryant taking the last shot all the time.
Or a decade later in an All-Star game, challenging LeBron.
Right,
remember that?
Right,
like,
yes.
Getting after LeBron, you're scared more than a decade later, 12, 13 years later. Like, the relentless competitiveness combined with the fearlessness is how you become him.
And I think, wasn't there one All-Star game when Michael walked up to him and said, don't do this tonight. Like, this is not going to be, we're just playing a game here. I don't want to see you, try to go get 30 off it. It's not going to happen.
That might have been Michael's last one.
It might have been. One of the last ones for sure there. On a larger scale, I think that Kobe is as responsible for the growth of the game globally as any player ever. The 1992 Dream Team is widely viewed as the team that opened the door globally. So you had some international players coming in and out of the NBA, but it really created a viewership of the NBA it's never seen before. And all those young kids, while they first started watching Michael and those players in the 90s, they grew up watching Kobe. And in the late 1990s, early 2000s, there was a vacuum for star players. Like, when Michael left the stage, it was Allen Iverson for a hot minute. Then it was Tim Duncan, maybe. But it really was Kobe that people started watching. And as the game expanded to different areas of the globe, to China with Yao Ming in 2003, all across Europe over the decade later, they were watching Kobe Bryant. It was his jersey they were buying. It was him they were trying to emulate. So this global behemoth that the NBA has become today is as much Kobe's doing as anybody else.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think he had such a global reach, more so than other players who were equally as famous, if you will?
It's a great question. And because I've wondered the same thing, because Kobe isn't from humble beginnings like so many of the international players. I think part of it has to do with the fact he was the first high school to pro that wasn't a big. Like, Moses did it, Kevin Garnett did it, he was the first guard to say, I'm going to go straight high school to pro. Pardon me. And I do wonder.
You're right. He actually was. Daryl Dawkins, Bill Willoughby. He was the first guard. He was
the first guy that wasn't just like, well, I'm big enough already. Right. And I do wonder if you're Joel Embiid, who doesn't pick up basketball till you're almost a teenager, and you're in Cameroon, and you say, okay, well, This guy turned into, I'm sure he thought, the best player in the world. He came into the league when he was a teenager. I'm bigger than everybody. People say I could be good at it. Why can't I? Mannix, your point to me is as important as anyone that'll be made over the 3 hours of this show. Is what makes the NBA to me so special today is you have a guy who's going to win an MVP who was born in Slovenia. You have a guy who won an MVP and is probably about to win another one who was born in Greece but is from Nigeria. You have a guy who might win an MVP one day who's from Cameroon, and a guy who I know is going to be on your MVP ballot, Pascal Siakam, who's also from Cameroon. That does not happen, I believe, without Kobe Bryant. He's not the only one. I'm not saying it's all him, but if you talk about human beings who has had the biggest impact on the NBA's global reach, Yao Ming is on that short list because of what he meant to the 1.5 billion in China. Kobe is on that list alongside Michael Jordan. Like what they did, because you talk about the dream team. I mean, Giannis was not born. Luka was -7. When the dream team for those guys, I'm older than all these guys, and I was 8 years old when the dream team happened. It was this era that made them fall in love with the game.
And Joel Embiid even said yesterday when he was reacting to all of this, was watching Kobe in those 2010 NBA Finals that made him say, oh, I want to play basketball. I want to be like this guy. Welcome back to First Things First. We are live down here in Miami as we, just like fans around the world, are remembering and celebrating the life of Kobe Bryant, who died tragically in a helicopter crash alongside his 13-year-old daughter and 7 others yesterday. This was the scene yesterday at Staples Center as Lakers fans gathered to honor their fallen star. One of Kobe's biggest fans was another Laker great, Magic Johnson, who took to Twitter yesterday and said this: my friend, a legend, husband, father, son, brother, Oscar winner, and greatest Laker of all time is gone. It's hard to accept. Kobe was a leader of our game, a mentor to both male and female players. Laker Nation, the game of basketball, and our city will never be the same without Kobe. Cookie and I are praying for Vanessa, his beautiful daughters, Natalia, Bianca, and Capri, as well as his parents, Joe and Pam, and his sisters. We will always be here for the Bryant family. Here is more now from Magic Johnson.
People are going to miss his smile and just miss him, because Kobe had an aura about him. And Jim, it was like, I thought he was going to live forever. I thought he was invincible. I thought he was, he played like that. He walked like that. He was just a confident young man. And when Jerry West drafted him, I remember him telling us when he went one-on-one against against Michael Cooper, that Kobe was the next greatest player to play in the league. And he was 17 years old. He wasn't even 18 yet. And I'm like, what? Are you sure, Jerry? And boy, was Jerry right. He was spot on.
And Kobe's name synonymous with the Laker franchise, as you know. How much, Nick, do you think Kobe meant to the city of Los Angeles?
The only thing I can compare it to is Derek Jeter to New York, Tom Brady to the New England area. I don't even think Michael Jordan to Chicago, because it kind of feels like the whole country took different parts of ownership of Michael Jordan. And you have Magic Johnson there, who one would argue that as far as guys who started and ended their careers with the Lakers, it's the greatest Laker ever, saying, no, it's Kobe Bryant. And the way Laker fans and the city of Los Angeles were so protective of him. Like, we joke and we talk about, were Laker fans happy LeBron signed there? The reason that was ever even a question was because of the protective nature surrounding Kobe, which, by the way, did not always exist. Like, that was, when the Kobe and Shaq stuff was going on, there were Laker fans who sided with Shaq and were angry if they felt that Kobe had pushed Shaq out. But then over the next decade, the year he averaged 35 and had the 81-point game, then a couple years later, when he wins a league MVP that a lot of people feel was long overdue, and they get to the finals, and then getting the back-to-back championships, including beating the hated Celtics, and then the he had like 7 acts. I mean, you could say the Achilles and hitting the free throws would have been his final act, but then his actual final act on the court was a 60-point final game. Those are the things that take you past legend into godlike status. And you still live in Los Angeles. I spent some time out there when the Lakers were at their nadir, and it was still, the Clippers could be the best team in the West. And the Lakers were scuttling along en route to 25 wins. And you go to any bar, any Laker game on, you would have to ask to have the Clipper game put on. And it was because Kobe was still playing. It was Kobe's last year. And so I don't think you can associate one person with one team more so than you do Kobe Bryant with the Lakers.
To your point, the Lakers got one of the best players to ever play the game coming to their team in his prime, LeBron. And some of them defaced murals twice because of Kobe. Because they felt, is he going to overtake or compete with Kobe? And I say this in a positive way. There's this cult-like following of Kobe fans, in LA mainly, but also throughout the country, that they're ready to fight you if you say somebody was better than Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, whoever.
How did he get that?
He is, look, Magic, who, like you said, many would say is the greatest Laker of all time. He says it's Kobe, and here's why a lot of people would say it's Kobe. He played 20 years with the Lakers. Magic only played 12 because of the HIV. His career was cut short. But who else could you name? Jerry West only won 1 title and lost 8 finals.
Kareem started with the
Bucks.
Milwaukee.
Wilt Chamberlain, only won 1 title, played for other teams. Like, Kobe's Laker resume is the best Laker resume of any player. And that's part of why he has this following like that.
And in some ways, it's completely improbable. I mean, Chris, you know this. Kobe's run in LA wasn't Dirk Nowitzki's in Dallas. Like, there were multiple times he was gone. Like, he demanded to be traded.
To be gone,
I remember he talked to Shaq about this a while back. In 2004, he actually demanded to be traded. 2007, I think that was the year he almost walked to Chicago or was signed with the Clippers. So the fact that he survived 20 years is improbable. The thing that I believe connects the Kobe with the Lakers as much as it does, he is on a very short list of players that have had one championship era, went through some rocky times, and then had another. I can't think of too many players that went through that. Look at the win totals in the middle of those Kobe years. 34 wins, 45 wins, 42 wins. And Kobe stuck around and was able to build another championship team. We've seen guys, Michael, Bill Russell, go on, even Larry Bird, go on runs on one era. Right. These were 2 totally different eras that Kobe participated in and led with the Lakers. I think that has forged the connection with that fan base.
Well, and Jenna, he played 20 years. Just pick a number, 1 through 20, and I'll tell you what happened that year. Like, it doesn't pick
any
one.
number?
Any number you want, 1 through 20.
12.
So year 12, he won his MVP. They lose in the final. They're back in the finals, but that's right after you're talking about when they're down. I think he averaged 30 a game in the playoffs that year. They lose to one of Mannix's best moments of his life, I assume. They lose to the Boston Celtics and KG and Paul Pierce and those. But give me another. Give me one from early on.
5.
So that's their second title and a year that people forget. He averaged 29 a game in the regular season and in the postseason. 29 a game in both of those, and had 48, I think it was that year. It might have been the first. No, it's that year. Had 48 to close out their round 2 series. 48 in the playoffs. He was 22 years old. Like, there's not a year aside from, if you said 18, I'd have been in bad shape because that's the year he was recovering from the Achilles. But every other year, there's something to pull from, even the years when they were down. That's when he averaged 35 and 31. That's when he had 81 points in a game after a few weeks prior scoring 62 in 3 quarters. Like, it is, and this is what I am going to struggle with for a long time. I have spent a lot of my television and radio career picking at him, picking at what makes him not as great as X, Jordan or LeBron or whoever. And it's because at least that's what I do. That's what we do when we're ranking players and we're listing, and it's really who's 6 and who's 8. It matters, damn it. And it deprived me, I think, of, until these last 18 hours, really appreciating, holy, look at what this guy did at every step of the way.
Another draw that we can't overlook with Kobe Bryant is his game looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, he was like Michael Jordan II. I mean, the dunks, the grace. Whether you rank LeBron better, his game looks better than LeBron. He's more graceful. He's a little bit, the way he flows through the air, and that's a big part of the draw as well, because very few players have looked as good as him when he does his thing on the court. That was a draw for Michael Jordan, and it's a draw for Kobe.
The most impactful thing you said to me, Nick, one time when we were talking about LeBron was, you don't know how many years you have left with LeBron playing. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time that you have left with him, with Tom Brady. The only time that was ever said even close to anything was towards the end with Kobe, when you knew it was the end of Kobe playing, and it was this appreciate what you're going to watch, because you might not see something with this longevity, this successful ever again, and we really haven't to that degree.
Well, and in Mannix, like that's the thing about sports is for Kobe, his time as a great player. He was still a great player in year 17. He was 27 a game, and he snapped his Achilles, and he only had really one more great moment, and that, of course, was as great of a moment as theirs, the 60 points in the final game. But that's what makes this extra devastating, is it did look like, his greatness as a basketball player might have ended a few years ago. But what he's now going to do as either a coach of his daughter, as an advocate for women's sports, this was something lost in the headlines the last few days. He said, I think there's a few WNBA players who could play in the NBA. And Mannix, I don't know how you read it. I read that less literal and more figurative to try to inspire his daughter and others to say, there is no ceiling. Don't just say you're going to be the best women's basketball player ever. See how high you can climb that mountain. And to have that taken away from all of us and from those close to him is just unspeakably tragic.
Real quick, I mean, his mind, I mean, there's so many examples of that mindset. But when he snapped that Achilles, I remember talking to him and seeing other people talk to him as well about, he really believed he was going to be a better player after the Achilles injury. He really believed that his will could overcome anything. So he would just take a redshirt year and a half or whatever it was and come back a stronger player. Now, obviously he didn't. You can't recover from that type of injury. But the fact that he wasn't just paying lip service to it. He actually believed that he was going to be a better player following probably the most devastating injury any NBA player could suffer.
All right, all morning long, we are continuing to hear the impact that Kobe had amongst so many. This from Kobe's former head coach, Phil Jackson. The crash was a tragedy for multiple families. My heart goes out to Vanessa and the families that lost loved ones. Kobe was a chosen one, special in many ways to help people. Our relationship as coach-player transcended the norm. He went beyond the veil. First things first, live from Miami Beach for Super Bowl 54. FS1 is here all week to preview an incredible matchup between the 49ers and the Chiefs. But today, we remember the life of the legendary Kobe Bryant, who died tragically in a helicopter crash alongside his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, and 7 others. The news hit many around the league hard. Here is Greg Popovich after the Spurs game yesterday.
Most importantly, appreciate you all letting the locker room be tonight. Everybody's pretty emotional about the tragedy with Kobe, and all of us know what a great player he was, but he went beyond great playing. He was a competitor that goes unmatched, and it's what made him as a player so attractive to everybody, that focus, that competitiveness, that will to win. And even more importantly than that, we all feel a deep sense of loss for what he meant to all of us in so many ways, and so many millions of people loved him for so many different reasons. It's just a tragic thing that there are no words that can describe how everybody feels about it. So we all think about the family, And the process that they're going to be going through now, that's where all our thoughts should be.
You hear Greg Popovich talk about his focus and Kobe's will and his drive. He had such a relentless pursuit for excellence in absolutely everything he did on the court. But you saw it later in life, especially off the court as well. What was it about Kobe's drive that enamored so many people, Doug?
I just think it's that will to win. But it's one thing. Every guy says they want to win, right? Every dude says I want to win, but who is actually willing to put in the time and put in the effort and improve your game? And that's what he did. He was very Jordan-like in that he went from being a driver, right, to making himself into an elite perimeter shooter, to making himself into a great post-up player where he had the Kobe fade, right? Like that was
great defender too.
He was a great defender, and he was a dog, right? He was. I'm not just a great defender. I'm going to guard your team's best player at the end of the game, which is what kind of basketball is always about, right? Like baseball, the competitor, the leader always plays shortstop. In basketball, the alpha takes the last shot, is not afraid of missing, and is going to guard the other team's best player. And that's who Kobe Bryant was. What's fascinating about it is that's the opposite of Jelly Bean Joe, right? Like
That's his dad, if people don't know.
So his dad was an NBA player, and then he played overseas, but he's seen as a guy who never really lived up to his potential, right? Whereas Kobe got every bit of juice out of that orange. I don't think Kobe Bryant is nearly as athletically talented as LeBron James or even as Michael Jordan, right? But he has been as successful as anyone since Jordan and before LeBron, or even more successful in terms of championships than LeBron. And I think it is that work ethic, and that's the Mamba mentality, which has now become embraced. Which, as we all remember, when he played, it wasn't, right? He was selfish. Like Game 7 against the Celtics, when they won their last title, it was a disaster for him shooting the basketball.
6 for 24.
I mean, he kept firing, he kept missing. Ron Artest really helped him win the game. But it's the will to win. And, one of the things he told me, I had a long night with him sharing drinks, and he said, what was Pau Gasol's reputation before he came to play for Lakers? Soft. Spain, soft. He goes, anybody think he was too soft to win 2 titles? Right? And I think he demanded that of his teammates. He made no apologies for it. It wore people out. It ran his best coach ever into retirement. Nearly got Shaq got sent away. Nearly got him traded away. But that was who he was. He was wired and focused to get as much out of himself and his teams as possible, and made no apologies.
One of my favorite Kobe stories, and this illustrates how much of a drive he had. He's in high school. I believe he was a junior, but he was either a junior or senior in high school. And he used to work out with the Philadelphia 76ers. John Lucas was the coach. He'd have Kobe come up and practice, play open gym with the guys and all that. So Vernon Maxwell was on the 76ers at that time, right? Mad Max. One of the toughest guys in the league.
Yes.
He would go at Jordan. Like, he would challenge Michael Jordan physically. Okay.
He gave him the blues in their era.
Right.
One of the only guys who could really check Michael.
So Kobe, as a high school kid, plays Vernon Maxwell one-on-one. Again, one of the toughest guys in the league. They're tied at 9. Okay, and they get in each other's face, and they're arguing, about to fight. And John Lucas just called off the game, had to stop it because they were going to fight, and they didn't finish the game. But that a high school kid would have the guts and the audacity to challenge a guy who was just below an all-star level in Vernon Maxwell, and one of the tougher guys in the league, just illustrates how much of a drive and the confidence that he had.
Well, Magic talked about this what made Magic decide to draft Kobe was a 17-year-old Kobe Bryant going up against Michael Cooper. Now, Michael Cooper admittedly was 40, but it was a grown man who was a great defensive player in this league. Like, that's what he was known for, and gave him the blues. Michael Cooper couldn't check 17-year-old Kobe, and that's what made Jerry West say, whatever it takes, we're going to get this guy. And he made, I think you could make the argument, all things considered, one of maybe the greatest trade in sports history post Babe Ruth. Like Vlade Divac, with respect to Vlade, for Kobe Bryant and 20 years of Kobe Bryant and 5 titles and 7 appearances. But what made him special on the court is what we were seeing making him special off the court, which is what Doug alludes to. Everyone says they're a hard worker. Yeah. That's like the #1 buzzword is, I'm a hard worker.
Yes.
Man, most people are not. Most people do either the bare minimum to get through the day or just enough to look like they're working a little harder than they have to. It is the rare breed that is actually a hard worker. Kobe models his game after Michael, gets to one level doing that, then says, hey, Akeem Olajuwon, what can you teach me about footwork? That'll get me to the next level. Oh, this guy from Germany, Dirk, he just won a league MVP. He's got this one-footed fit. Why don't I incorporate that? And took that exact same approach, you mentioned it. When he blew his Achilles, he had that year off to kind of plot, I'm going to play for a few more years, but what am I going to do? And he had a plan, and he threw, I'm going to figure out how to make movies, how to do venture capital. I'm going to throw myself all in to whatever I'm doing. And that part is inspiring. And that part is something that, as you said, we all can learn from, that if you truly want to have any shot at greatness at anything, the level of focus it takes.
And sometimes we lose sight of where we list the accomplishments, but at least in the last year or two, what you saw from Kobe as a father, the dedication he poured into helping coaching his daughter, what you saw on the sidelines with him at Laker games, you should do this, or pointing the fingers and the laughing, the effort that he poured into being a family man, at least in the last couple of years, was so heartwarming that that's also what makes this so hard.
That started the year he tore his Achilles. You know, the year he tore his Achilles, my daughters were in school with Gianna. And he was there all the time. He's serving lunches, you know, and I think that really changed him. And then putting together, first it was Mamba volleyball, and then it became for his older daughter, and then basketball for Gianna. And he took a ton of pride in it. You know, 2 other players tragically died in the accident as well. But he would send not just me, other basketball people, videos. Check out what we're doing within Triangle. You know, we're evolving it. We're teaching him how to pivot, how to pass. Like that was. And it's a fascinating tale, right? From the Jerry West making the draft day trade to early on the air ball in the playoffs to winning championships, the breakup with Shaq, right? Obviously all the stuff that happened off the court, and then on the court, Phil goes away, Phil comes back. But I think the bigger thing is he wasn't well liked. He was kind of socially really awkward, maybe a little bit too smart, a little bit too worldly for the NBA, especially post-Jordan. Remember, that was when people were trying to cut back on the hip-hop perception of the NBA, and David Stern put in the dress code, right? He didn't fit there. Now you fast forward to he's 41 years old, and he's the most well-respected, as he's always been, and liked former NBA star, and now he passes away.
To your point, I mean, we saw him grow up in the spotlight. Like he was, 17, 18 when he came into the league, and until he was 37. Yes. He literally grew up in front of our eyes, and you could see the growth and maturity that anyone would have from that 18 to 37.
Kobe Bryant, like we've been talking about all morning, so much bigger than just the game of basketball. Among the statements, this from Dirk Nowitzki on Twitter. This is hitting me really hard. I will always remember coming home after games so I could watch you dominate the fourth quarter. You inspired so many around the world, including me. You will always be missed. You will always be remembered. You will always be loved. Rest in peace with your angel Gigi. Deepest sympathies to Vanessa, the girls, and all the friends and families of the lives lost today. It seems almost unfair that he was taken from us so soon, way too soon, before he had a chance to do his second, third, fourth act that we all thought. Nick, we've been paying tribute to Kobe and his life for our entire show today. I want to give you a chance to give us your final thoughts.
One of them is very personal, and the other, I think, can apply to more. The personal one is I feel personally guilty for the manner in which I have always discussed Kobe. Listen, man, Kobe, because he was such an icon, and he was always involved in these some real, some media-created rivalries, right? It was Kobe versus Shaq, and you picked a side. I was a Shaq guy. It was Kobe versus Jordan, and I know people might not believe it, but I was a Jordan guy. It was Kobe versus LeBron, and I obviously was a LeBron guy, up to and including, little did any of us know, 10 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours before this tragic accident when LeBron passed him. And I couldn't even manage just to, send out the tweet congratulating LeBron without a little bit of a dig, because it was a friendly sports rivalry. But in building one person up, I very often tear someone down. And you justify it in your head by it's sports. They're all, nobody really cares. But it was unnecessary. And then he's gone. And you look back on the career and you say, this is one of the greatest athletes ever. This is someone whose on-the-court resume rivals just about anyone, and was building something off the court that was maybe going to rival or surpass any athlete off the court as far as winning the Oscar and what he was going to build. And it'll always affect me and fans who never met him because of the power of his ability, his personality, and the way he handled himself, especially this last phase of his career and life. And when it says Kobe Bryant on the screen, Broussard, with the years, it still, to me, doesn't feel totally real that we are talking about Kobe Bryant in the past tense.
No, look, I'm with you. And for your first statement about being critical of Kobe, that's the analytics age. And analytics looks at Kobe Bryant's career, and he wasn't that efficient. He shot the mid-range ball. And look, I don't care what your analytics say. This guy was one of the greatest to ever do it. And 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, don't put all these guys with the great analytic numbers ahead of Kobe Bryant. All right, this dude was the truth, period. All right, secondly, I have full faith that the NBA will handle this the right way, and whatever they do will be great. And I will not be critical of them if they don't do this. I would love to see them retire both number 8 and number 24. And I haven't talked to anybody with the NBA about this. I don't know if they're thinking about it or it hasn't crossed their mind. But league-wide, I would like to see them retire number 8 and number 24. Major League Baseball retired Jackie Robinson's number, which obviously he for a different reason. But the NBA, you've been making the point all morning, Nick. We haven't seen an NBA superstar pass away like this in the prime of his life.
Listen, everyone that's ever won the MVP is still with us except for Wilt, who died 20 years ago, but he was older. Moses, who died suddenly, but rest in peace, Moses was 60. And now Kobe. Every other one, MVP is still alive. So there is no precedent for this. So
I think that's appropriate to retire Kobe Bryant's number. I'd love to see the NBA do it.
And I just want to read one quote. It's from Showtime special he did in 2015. He said, there's a choice that we have to make as people, as individuals. If you want to be great at something, there's a choice you have to make. We all can be masters at our craft, but you have to make a choice. What I mean by that is there are inherent sacrifices that come along with that. Family time, hanging out with friends, being a great friend, being a great son, nephew, whatever the case may be. There are sacrifices that come along with making that decision. And the absolute cruel unfairness of this is Kobe knowingly made those sacrifices, believing I'm going to get that time back on the back end. I'm going to throw myself all into my daughter's lives. I'm going to do all these things. And that's what he was doing.
Right.
And that's what a lot of us who are really highly motivated career people do. It'll all be worth it. And you don't always have that time at the end. And to have that stolen from Kobe, from his daughter, and from the 7 other innocent people on that plane, it's unspeakably awful. And for those close to him, your heart absolutely breaks for him.
It is so well said. Chris Broussard, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you.
That is going to do it for us here this morning. We are going to be back here tomorrow morning. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern.